Welcome back everyone to Tarvel's Perspective. And yeah, I'm surprised it's taken me this long to do this too. I am a massive, lifelong, die-hard Mega Man X fan. I know I said Final Fantasy was my favorite series of all time, but if Mega Man X didn't die 20 years ago, it probably would be my favorite. It's so hard being a Mega Man X fan. I've been obsessed with the story of X, Zero, and Sigma for a long time now. And I'm really excited to talk today about the first game on the Super Nintendo, Mega Man X. But is it still as good as they say? Let's figure it out together. I got a lot to say about this one. For this episode, I'll be playing on the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, which is just... Oh god! It's the greatest compilation of fan service I've gotten in a long time. This right here is the bar that I set for any collection of classic games. The attention to every detail, the fun and refreshing achievements, all the unlockable artwork along with an onslaught of quality of life improvements, the ability to play either the North America or Japanese version of every game. It even included an entirely new mode called the X Challenge, which pits you against multiple bosses simultaneously in a gauntlet of increasingly difficult battles to see just how far you can get. And it's so sick, my dudes! I get this feeling of pure adrenaline and hype going through it, and when you finally take down a challenge that's been plaguing you for hours, there's nothing better. They have some truly despicable fights in here to humble your ass right back where it belongs though. No joke. What the fuck, dude? It's got so many options and extras added in, like a full museum, including a gallery of official art, a showcase of all the merch and Mega Man X products, a music player including every track from the games as well as original music made for the Legacy Collection, original Japanese commercial trailers for every title, and the entire goddamn Mega Man X anime movie, The Day of Sigma, which was originally only included on the PSP remake of the first title, Maverick Hunter X. This is nuts, and as a fan, I feel fully serviced. My god. This compilation set the bar so high, and it's now how I expect things to be done. True story, I bought an Xbox One on Halo Master Chief Collection launch day because of how hyped I was for the MCC. And well...
literally unplayable.
I sold my Xbox One a week later. Still the most disappointing gaming moment of my entire existence. But I digress. Let's start off with some lore. For those unfamiliar with the Mega Man series canon, and no, I don't mean his arm, the X series takes place sometime after the original Mega Man series, or 21XX as they say, whereas the original takes place in 2000X. The original series has a much more lighthearted, cartoony vibe compared to the super serious X series.
Time to get serious!
Clearly trying to get people on board to the new generation with the extreme future version of Mega Man. Capcom has never had a true bridging of this time gap per se, but it's been heavily hinted at in many titles, but none more so than Mega Man 2 The Power Fighters, in the ending of the Base, where we see that Base is totally willing to kill a man. Yikes! Here, it's flat out shown that Wily is creating Zero, one of the main characters introduced in this title. And while he never says the name, his entire silhouette is shown. I, like many others, just assume everyone from the original timeline is dead, though some characters seem to have made it a little farther than the rest of them. And even still, before the story of this game picks up, there's a full anime short film called The Day of Sigma, like I mentioned earlier. It sets up the story of the game and dives deeper into the main characters. It completely retcons some other moments from future games, and I'm not really sure which timeline to follow, but it's a good watch nonetheless. The key takeaways here are that Reploids are robots who are able to think for themselves, and are all based on X's design. X is a creation of Dr. Light, and is the first of his kind, a robot which has a conscience and is capable of free thought. X is able to learn and act on his own like any human could. He represents the future of robotics, and even his name itself was chosen to represent his infinite potential by having X be a variable. Dr. Light sealed X away to be discovered in the future, since he figured the world was not ready for X's existence just yet. Not gonna lie, kinda wish ChatGPT spent another century or so in the oven as well. Dr. Kane would then uncover X years later during an archaeological dig, where he was, no joke, looking for Mesozoic plant life. You can see his journal entries in the instruction manual, which I've never actually seen before making this video. Super cool. His dig reveals Dr. Light's old lab and a capsule containing X. Quickly, he can tell that X is special and acts just like any human would. Dr. Kane is so taken by X that he creates the first run of Reploids, but he admits that he doesn't understand how Light did it perfectly, so none of these Reploids are quite on the same level of potential as X. Kane starts pumping these Reploids out by the city load as humanity starts to heavily rely on them. So much so that when 3 Reploids go nuts and start hurting people, Kane has no idea why, but continues to create the Reploids anyway. Instead of figuring out why, a council of hunters is made to protect people from any Reploid that goes quote-unquote maverick, aka willing to hurt humans or other Reploids. Sigma, who is Kane's newest, biggest, and baddest Reploid yet, is hired to lead the hunters in the fight against Mavericks. Though of course, Kane's worst nightmare comes true, and Sigma himself goes Maverick. Not only that, but many of the top-ranking hunters go Maverick as well, and join him in a crusade against humanity. Sigma now believes that Reploids are superior to humans, and that humans are only holding back the true evolution and progress of Reploids. X takes this personally, since he's the blueprint for all these Reploids in the first place. He wants to join the new hunters, which is now being led by Zero, in order to protect humanity and take down Sigma and the Mavericks. Important to remember going forward, Dr. Light is X's father, Dr. Wily is Zero's father, though we don't technically know that yet at this point in the story, and Dr. Kane is Sigma's father. And like every other Reploid as well, he's basically the Nick Cannon of this universe.
I'm like a seahorse out here.
Woo, okay. That was a lot to get through just setting up this story, but I absolutely love the world building of this series, and find it crucial to have all that under our belt to appreciate the games moving forward. From this point on, we'll just be building on that foundation. So let's actually fire up the video game now, shall we? Man, that's soothing. We're first hit with a bunch of technical information about Kane's PC, including his whopping 32,000 terabytes of memory and 32 megabytes of data cache. This dude's bottleneck is a needlepoint, bro. Not gonna be so easy to use that BDE of his. We're then shown a breakdown of X's body and specifications. And a cool thing I noticed is that the X-Buster is the 17th version of the Mega Buster. Thinking about old Thomas testing these out makes me laugh. Then the flashing red lights and loud sirens start going off, showing a warning to whoever finds X in the future. This will definitely let you know if the volume was left too high on your TV, that's for sure. Like says in his message that if X ever breaks the first rule of robotics, a robot must never harm a human, then we're all just fucked. So please do not disturb the capsule until it's good and ready. The title screen kicks in and sets the metallic tone we'll be clanging in for the rest of the game. And if you're a gigabrain like I am, you'll immediately head into the options and change dash to the R button and weapon switching to your other 2 face buttons. Trust me, this will make things so much easier for you in the future. Now it's time to finally start playing the video game. And this first level is by far, bar none, one of the absolute
worst levels in the entire Mega Man X series.
Yes, I know, shut up, jump and shoot man, whatever. Ugh. Okay, so I'm exaggerating a bit. Certainly there's some bigger stinkers in later titles, but let me at least explain why I think this. It's for one reason, and one reason only, and it's that you can't dash. One of the key differences between the original series and the X series is the ability to dash, and it's far and away the top reason I enjoy the gameplay here more. You can dash on the ground, dash jump with all your momentum, dash off walls, door dash. It's so fun and is as crucial to the gameplay loop as the roll and the cartwheel were from Donkey Kong Country. The Central Highway is the only level in the entire game where you do not have the option to use this critical feature, and it pains me every time. I understand that when it came out, it was to ease people into how X controls, opposed to how Rock controlled in the NES games. But for a lifelong fan like myself, I just feel like I've got 200-pound lead boots on. I want to feel like Super Samus, not Prime Samus. My personal bitching aside, the intro stages as a whole are another addition that the original never had. It's a chance to fight some baby bosses and teach new mechanics like the wall kick, and give some purpose to X's motivation by having some story development at the end. And it's here where we meet our first main villain of the story, Vile. Vile has a real hate boner on for X, and despises that he is seen as the future of Reploid potential and not him.
X, why does it have to be you?
The Japanese instruction manual tells a bit of history on Vile, stating that he was once a maverick hunter that was just a bit too into his job, he would ruthlessly murder Mavericks and cause collateral damage by doing so, essentially making himself that which he hunted. He was detained but freed during Sigma's rebellion to cause as much chaos as possible. And as we see here, it's mostly to get in X's way. I've always loved Vile's design in this game. He's got a bomb-ass shoulder cannon, he's coated in that periwinkle twinkle from head to toe, and he wears Magneto's helmet to keep old Professor X here out of his head. Though it doesn't work, because X lives in Vile's head rent-free.
X. Why does everyone like that guy?
My guy despises X and wants to defeat him just to prove that he can. And that he does! Vile, being the dick that he is, savagely beats your ass to a pulp with his ride armor, leaving X completely incapacitated as he begins to squeeze what little life force he has left out of him. That is until the low realist homie shows up, Zero. Shut up, that's funny. Zero dashes in with his massive anime ponytail of blonde brilliance and blasts Vile's arm clean off, saving X and forcing Vile to retreat into the airship. And yeah, if it wasn't obvious already, we stand Zero in this house. His design is so friggin' cool. He's got the bad boy energy, the spiked helmet looking like Batman, and green orb boobies. Why does a robot need 5 feet of golden hair and a pair of emerald melons? Maybe he's born with it. Wily was very clearly cooking in his old age. Zero gives a pep talk to X, telling him that if X embraces every function of his design, that he can be stronger than Zero himself. And this is another reason I love Zero, and X too. It's their brotherly relationship. These two will always do what's best for each other, and are always there to support one another through anything. It's so refreshing seeing a friendship like this. Now, it does get some spice added to it later down the timeline, which was bound to happen considering who each of their fathers are, but man, I love these two together. Get yourself a man who looks at you like X looks at Zero. The fact that there isn't a co-op game where two players can control X and Zero simultaneously is criminal. Maybe one day. After that, you're met with the select screen, a Mega Man series staple. Instead of a linear approach to levels like Yoshi's Island or Donkey Kong Country, the Mega Man series has always allowed players to visit any of the main levels in any order and defeat bosses however they like. Though this screen has a bit more juice to squeeze than your standard select screen. By default, you can see a picture of the level you're about to select as you scroll along your choices. But if you activate these nodes in the corner, you can see a world map, as well as details on each Maverick working for Sigma. You can tell they work for Sigma since he forced all of them to get matching tattoos, which you can see on Launch Octopus, Armored Armadillo, and Sting Chameleon's forehead, which is just the capital letter from the Greek alphabet. I don't want to admit how old I was when I first realized that's what that symbol actually was. I always just thought it was like some weird, angry, robotic shark thing. Yeah. Also, diving into the museum on the collection reveals these guys have the most unhinged nicknames. Look at this nonsense. Lord of the Snowy Plains? Lightning King of the Bullet Fists? Spirit Sharpshooter of the Haunted Forest? What the hell? Yeah, okay, moving on. First up, Chill Penguin. It has to be. It always will be. You cannot convince me otherwise. Only because it's in this level where you not only get the dash boots, but you have to get the dash boots. Daddy completely blocks the path about halfway through the level and gives you the typical father speech about how X can choose his own path in life and that ideally he would choose peace. But just in case the world still sucked, he left some sick violent upgrades all over the world in these capsules. With great power comes great responsibility and sexy new boots. Finally, now I feel like I'm playing a Mega Man X game. I can't oversell this. The dash is so fun to use. Just sailing over these ostriches and shit. Now that's living. It's so simplistically fun when you have this level of mobility and when the controls are this tight, especially if you set dash to R like I recommended. By default, it's set to A, which makes holding a charge while dash jumping kinda awkward, since it requires you to hit 3 of the face buttons at the same time with your thumb. With it set to R, it makes it so easy to hold a charge by keeping Y pressed down and rolling your thumb onto B when you need to jump, all the while dashing with R whenever you need to. Also, I have a toy of this little guy. Another fun thing in this level is the ride armor. After getting your ass shredded by Vile in the opening, it's nice to get access to this power trip, even if it doesn't last for very long. Then it's time to go against the boss, Chill Penguin. Or if you decided to watch the Day of Sigma, no Chill Penguin. Listen to him.
Roger, I'll secure the area. Ah! Stop that thing! Get the generator! The generator is! Shoot the generator!
Voice of an angel, I say. One unspoken feature of your new dash boots is the ability to shoot a high impact basic shot. If you dash and shoot out one of your basic lemons, it will actually do just as much damage as a full charge shot, no joke. Look at this. It's not always the best option, mind you. I find it good to charge my next shot while dodging whatever attack the boss is using, or while they're invulnerable, like when Chill Penguin is sliding along the ground. Plus, the charge shot has a much bigger hitbox, making it easier to land. But still, it's a great thing to use against bosses and regular enemies alike in a pinch to do some extra damage. The mid-level charge shot does have a slightly bigger hitbox, which can be helpful when hitting higher or lower hanging enemies. But something I found when I was doing research for this game is that each boss has a different defense value and takes different amount of damage from each respective charge shot. Penguin, Mandrill, Octopus, and Kwanger will take 3 damage from a full charge shot and 2 from a mid charge shot, whereas the rest will take 1 damage from a basic or half charge and 2 from a full. Except for Armored Armadillo, who takes a flat 1 damage across the board no matter what. The things you learn when you start to do a little bit of research. Taking down Chill Penguin isn't too bad. Just be sure to use the walls to your advantage and try not to let him hit you with his body. Every Maverick or Robot Master has their own distinct weakness, right? So my headcanon here is that I always thought that Mega Man and X's weakness is the fact that if anything so much as touches them, they take damage. No other enemy has that. It is completely unique to them. Think about it. Once you beat Chill Penguin, you get his weapon, Shotgun Ice. And anytime you beat a Maverick, you take their weapon with you. And each weapon is super effective against another. Since I've replayed this game like 1,000 times, I like to go X-Buster only against the Mavericks in my first run through their respective levels. I find that the weaknesses can sometimes be so good that they trivialize the bosses, and you don't get to see their different attacks and design to their fullest. And right after I finish this level, I always head straight to... Okay, so yeah, look at this Giga Chadbot. By far the coolest Maverick design in the game. Looks like he's straight out of a retro cartoon fusion of Transformers and Rock-a-Doodle. Storm Eagle is guarding the airport, and I love this level. Using the new dash boots, you can take a huge dashing leap of faith back towards the start of the level if you notice this little pink heart sitting here. This is a heart tank, and there's one hidden in every level. If X grabs one of these, his maximum HP will increase by 2. X starts with 16, so you can effectively double your max HP by grabbing all of these. Needless to say, these are incredibly satisfying to find and collect for that dopamine hit of seeing stats increase. God, I love this stage. Ascending up these platforms and going from overcast to breaching the cloud barrier into a beautiful blue sky, this is twiddling my nostalgia bean to the climax. Heading up here and shattering the glass unveils a sub-tank, which can be filled by gaining health upgrades while you're at full health, and can be used whenever you want to get some extra heals. Anytime you collect some health while you're maxed out, you hear this delightful little sound effect. This extra energy will go directly into your sub-tanks, which you can monitor in the start menu. Moving forward through the level, you'll eventually come across another Dr. Light capsule which holds an upgrade for the head parts. This allows X to bust open overhead blocks like he's Super Mario. Or I guess Super Luigi? Yeah, it's kinda lame, but it looks cool. Whatever. It's needed for a couple of things later. This boss door seems kinda strange. You gotta fall down onto this... Wait, isn't this the airship that terrorized the Central Highway with racer dudes and Vile? Why, it is! And it goes by the name of the Death Rogumer. Rogumer? Whatever. Oh well, I guess X will just rip it in half instantly then! Storm Eagle's pretty easy, especially if you dash into his wind pushing attack here and use those super high impact lemons I was talking about. Pretty easy to rustle his feathers and take him down.
Ruffle feathers. You said rustle feathers.
Russell, Ruffle, whatever, I don't care.
Russell's the first name, Ruffle is...
Rustle, R-U-S-T-L-E, rustling leaves. You can also rustle feathers.
Notice that after you kill him though, the entire ship goes hurtling downwards, with X proving he's got good pullout game by bailing at the last second. And where does the Death Rogumer end up? Well, it crash lands directly into Spark Mandrill's power plant. You can see the remains of the airship here as a box of scraps the second you arrive. So, this is a really cool feature about this game I haven't mentioned yet, but depending on the order you beat certain Mavericks in, the levels could be affected in various ways, and this is one of those examples. This is obviously the power plant, but since you smash the Rogumer into it, you've knocked the entire power grid into an unstable state. This changes how certain enemies act, and makes it much harder to see in some areas. If you came here before beating Storm Eagle, there's a lot more going on. The lights are illuminated, the floor is electrified, and this freaky Thunder Slimer, yes that is its actual name, will Judgment Bolt you back to the 2000X days. But with the power off, he just kind of... it's sad to see. By the way, if you ever want to blast through a level no problem, especially against these fatty enemies with a ton of HP, just start ripping storm tornadoes constantly. Shreds them like cheese. Spark Mandrill is one of the Mavericks that can actually trip me up on the first go. Since I like to use X-Buster only on my first run through, this shocking simian is one of the few that can easily drop me. He just does a ton of damage and can knock you off the wall with a swift fisting. But with a bit of patience and reading his telegraphed attacks, you can bring him down no problem. I need you all to do a favor for me. Crank that volume! Ignore the fact that no one knows what the hell a Coanger is and embrace this moment. This is my favorite Maverick level, and I think you know why. But do you? Okay, yes. It's got my favorite song in the game. Cause like, listen to this. But it's not just that. I love me a good vertical climb in a platformer. Going from left to right is baby, but trying to fight enemies while ascending to the penthouse is for champions. God, I love a good tower climb. As I was going full Tornado Terrace here, I remembered a trick that not a lot of people know. As you're scrolling through your weapons with the face buttons, if you ever hit both left and right at the same time, you will always switch right back to your X-Buster. Very handy if you want to quickly unequip a weapon without going into your menu. Yeah, okay, that never happened yet, moving on. God, I even love the backgrounds of this level. I can't even describe what this is other than robot chunklets, but man, the dark teal steel with the little red lights in the background take me back. Eventually you get to the exterior of the tower with a beautiful blue sky. Take a whiff. That's fresh air, baby. Now it's time to go toe-to-toe with old BK here. And I must say, for a boomer, he moves pretty quick. I'm impressed. Either gas went down 2 cents or there's a good Trudeau meme making its way through the Facebooks. He's just bebopping and scatting all over the place, whipping his boomerangs everywhere. He's a pretty obvious reference to Cutman from the original series, with his scissor head and the projectile. His constant teleporting can be a real pain in the ass. Just don't get caught in that reverse suplex because, oh, damn! See ya, boomer. This level's got an upbeat, fast-paced tune to go along with its wild and wacky roller coaster gimmick. I always love shooting while on this thing and seeing how slow your bullets move in comparison to X. Watching them catch straggling bats in the process and then doing a Super Mario long jump right at the end. There's these crusher robots which plow through the dirt and will bust you up in one hit. But if you've got the storm tornado or the flamethrower or an arm built like a sewing machine, you can mash it down and destroy it in time to grab some goodies. The level ends with the best set piece yet, flying over Niagara Falls, blasting down innocent pterodactyl bots. They didn't deserve this. Why would X do this? Do the jump! Now this dude is definitely the hardest Buster only boss. He counters any full charge with a screen blasting attack of his own, which really stings. He's also completely invincible while he's doing his DVD menu screensaver attack. At the very least, he does hit the corners. God, I love it when it hits the corners. Can't wait to see what bosses in the 3D generation can do. Just get in his face and drown him in lemonade. First little detail I noticed in this level, when X is warping in, he rustles the leaves here.
R-U-S-T-L-E.
And while that's a nice touch, it does make me ask some questions about this whole warping function X has. Is he tangible? He hit those leaves, so he must be. And yet you can do this out of an entirely enclosed room, even straight up through a ceiling of spikes. This is something that is, to my knowledge, never explained in any game. Also, it never happens in any cutscene or anime adaptation. In fact, even in the day of Sigma, when X and Zero need to get anywhere, they use the ride chasers. I think this is something that's never had much thought put into it, frankly, and adding the leaves bit here raises too many questions. I need coffee. Going this top route, you get locked in with this robot who has a weirdly close design to a main character from the original series, Otto. Probably just a coincidence, but then again, once you defeat him, one of Light's hidden capsules is revealed. Big sus.
Now I drive the school bus.
We get our Tommy Oliver vest and now we take 50% less damage. Dope. Dodged every single one. Nice. Sting Chameleon isn't too bad of a fight. He's just mega annoying in that he stays invincible and invisible for just way too long. It can get kind of boring. Stop doing your dumb magic tricks, lizard!
I think I'll torture you for a while.
Also, make sure not to tap that ceiling or Yeah! Okay, one more down. Let's teleport out of here. Oh! Fuck! God, that background is beautiful. I love a good dark navy daytime sky with some bright white clouds to contrast it. Then when you get under the sea, you can notice the background swaying with the tides. I love the visuals of this game so damn much. Also, you know how in most every game, the water levels suck? They either limit your controls, your speed, or have some annoying air gimmick? Well, not here. The water physics are a delight. You're not slowed at all, and the only thing that changes is that you can jump mega high and long. Whee! Love that. You'll fight a couple of these angler enemies that shoot out what I can only guess are eels to hunt you down. I like to just blast them with Storm Tornado as the— oh god, he Kirby'd me! Then you fight another reddish one over some spikes, and this can be obnoxious. He'll suck and blow you straight into these insta-death traps if you're not careful. Riding one of these whirlpool towers to the surface brings you to what looks like a whale boat bot trying to throw everything it can at you out of its gaping blowhole. Blast it enough and go down with the ship, Captain X. Down here you'll find a serpent just swimming around minding his own business. But this is a video game, so go blow his head off and take his heart. Fighting Launch Octopus can be a bit hectic with all the projectile spam he does, but I tend to just respond with my own, and it seems to do pretty well. Much like all the enemies in this level, he gives you the good old suck, but if you just dash away while charging, it's easily punishable. 7 Mavericks down, 1 more to go.
Even my explosion is beautiful.
Okay, so the first thing I see here is nothing but ice and snow and a severed serpent heads from Launch Octopus's level. Pusses. This is another instance of defeating Mavericks in a certain order affecting a level. If you beat Chill Penguin, this entire level will be glazed over in ice and snow. In reality, this level is supposed to be the token fire area with magma and fire pillars blasting up all over the place to make this stage an actual hazard. But as it is now, it's baby mode for babies. Because the dash boots are in Chill Penguin's level, it's always going to be the first level I do. So I almost never get to see this level in its full fiery glory. Kinda wish they had swapped these, to be perfectly honest. So here's one of the trickier jumps to make. Be careful here, because you can make it, break the lowest block accidentally, and fall, and then you'll be unable to get back up here again without dying or leaving the level. I tried to let this guy kill me to show you guys, and I couldn't get over just how much of a laugh this guy is getting. Dude thinks this is hilarious! Peaked in high school energy. If you've got the boots and the helmet, you can mash your way up here for the final armor upgrade, the Buster. This allows X to charge up the X Buster one stage further and blast out this pink DNA strand looking thing, and also creates a full body blast wave around X, which will also damage enemies and bosses. I'm not the biggest fan of this upgrade, and I'll tell you why. When I'm fighting a boss, I like to fire off a charge shot and then immediately start charging the next one as soon as I can. What happens with this shot is the projectile is a little delayed compared to the regular full shot. So what ends up happening is I'll fire off the pinkies by letting go of the shoot button, then immediately hit and hold it again to charge up the next one. But because the shot is delayed, I end up firing a lemon out ahead of it since I started the next charge. If you're against a boss that gets iframes after they're hit, great. I just did minimum damage, made them invincible, and now none of the fully powered blasts did anything. Plus, even when it does land, it doesn't do any extra damage over the original charge shot. My micro is too fast! I'm too good for this stupid gun! The other key feature to this though is that X gains the ability to charge up the Maverick weapons he's been collecting, and most of the time this lets X do another one of the boss's techniques. Sting Chameleons lets him go completely invincible, Rolling Shield gives you a full Sonic Bubble, and Storm Tornado lets you use Launch Octopus's attack? Some are just completely out of nowhere, like Boomerang Cutter. It launches a ton of emerald scythes all over the screen. Fun to look at, but has nothing to do with Boomer Kwanger himself. Since we're talking about the armor parts, I always found it so friggin' cool how you could collect these in any order, and X's sprite would change depending on that order. Do you realize how nuts that is for a Super Nintendo game? That means there's an entire sprite set for every permutation of X upgrades. Just boots and helmet, boots and armor, Buster and helmet, whatever. That's dedication. So impressed with this. It's also another reason why I love the X series over the original. Mega Man typically has the exact same body and HP pool by the end of the game as he did in the first level. Sure, he gets some boss weapons and rush upgrades and maybe like a balloon or some shit, but with X, you feel the growth. As you explore and get better, your passive and active abilities keep expanding, and you can see your health pool increasing with every heart tank. It's sort of like an RPG in that way, and it tickles something in my brain that makes me so happy. Speaking of, since the snow is glowing white on the mountain tonight, you can grab this heart tank super easy. You can still get it in fire mode, but you're gonna get some third degree if you try. Flame Mammoth himself isn't too interesting, but he can knock X on his ass if you're on the ground when he lands his jump. Elephant Robot Big. Fighting him in this refrigerator just feels so wrong though. Once the 8th and final Maverick goes down, Zero arrives to tell you he's found Sigma's fortress, and that it's time to get X bussin'. But before we do that, let's go scoop up some of the things we missed before we fight the almighty butt shin bot here. Now that Launch Octopus is dead, we can go down where it's wetter, which makes it much better to get a heart tank for me. The Boomerang Cutter allows you to grab things that may be out of reach, like this sub tank and this heart tank. You can also cheese it with the charged up Shotgun Ice, which turns it into an ice board. Once you've got all 8 heart tanks, all 4 armor pieces, and all 4 sub tanks, you've got almost everything. There is a very special, insanely well hidden secret power in the game. And I don't mean well hidden from the general population. This has been a well-known unlockable for decades. I mean that there's almost no way someone is ever accidentally finding this. If you head to Armored Armadillo's level, be sure to farm these bats and fill up your sub-tanks and lives. There's a special bat here who looks like the old NES Mega Man bats that has a way higher rate of dropping your face. Make sure to stockpile a bunch of these and get to the end of the level. Once you get to this set piece again, grab the energy here, then do it over and over at least 5 times, and eventually you'll find a new capsule with Dr. Light wearing a karate gi and a headband. He's dressed up as Ryu, famous Super Smash Bros. Ultimate character, and this capsule gives you the Hadouken, a one-hit KO super nuke used to end a boss fight as soon as it begins. It can only be used at full health, and requires you to actually input the down, forward, forward, shoot button combo to pull off. Super neat little Easter egg. And X even screams when he fires it off. Though I wish it looked a little cooler. Like, come on, X's regular charge shot looks way more awesome than this dinky little thing. I usually never get it, since it's a bit of a pain in the ass to get, and I like fighting the bosses in a fair fight, or at least as fair as it can be. Still a fun secret to uncover though. Okay, let's head towards Sigma. Zero shows up again to say 0 things, and then you're blessed with yet another absolute banger of a track. Boomer Kawanger still has my favorite track, but this is a very close second. Listen to that slaptastical bass! The X series as a whole has its ups and downs when it comes to game quality, but it never, ever drops the ball when it comes to music. The high-intensity melodic metal melts my mind. Every single level is just so damn catchy. Even the boss theme, which is probably my least favorite track, though that's not saying much, has such an incredibly elaborate bass line that fits the aesthetic of the game so well. I love it all. This entire soundtrack is all killer and no filler. I also gotta add that the sound effects in this game add so much crunch and impact to everything. The sound of a boss eating a full charge shot is so deliciously satisfying. Everything sounds so girthy and metallic. It's just, it's perfect. Halfway through the level, we get stopped by Vile and Zero, who dash off to fight in the other room. As you approach, you can even hear them fighting in the distance. Love those little touches. Though once you get in here, Vile is in his ride armor, and Zero is trapped in some kind of electric prison cell. Man, a lot happened in that 5 seconds. But now that you've grown, you've upgraded, you've gained experience, and you're ready to face your fears and take on your bitter Oh god, no! Oh god, he's beating my ass again! Yeah, Vile just straight whoops you, again, in the exact same way he did in the opening level. I hate this! This totally goes against the narrative they were building up with the fact that X's potential is so high, and that he can grow and adapt better than anyone. What ends up happening is once you're just about dead, Zero smashes out of his cell and suicide bombs Vile's ride armor, vaporizing it while Vile lives and Zero dies. Suddenly a burst of latent energy activates inside X, and he's able to fully heal himself and fight Vile. And now we can actually beat him. And it's pretty damn easy. I don't know, if it were me, I'd maybe rewrite this scene a little better. Keep the part where Vile got the better of Zero in the initial fight, but have it so X can actually damage and defeat Vile himself to prove how much he's grown since the intro level. Then, because Vile is such a spiteful little prick, he destroys himself to kill Zero, as a final fuck you to X. I feel like that would better show off the characterization of everyone in this scene. Ah well, it is what it is. Once Vile goes down, we find the dying body of Zero, who gives some parting words as he gets dusted. If you happen to get all this way and never found the upgraded X-Buster, Zero will give you his Z-Buster. Functionally though, it's identical. Just a fail check for the player to make sure you have the upgraded Buster going forward. So whether you like it or not, eventually you will have both the boots and the Buster upgrade. Moving forward, you randomly run into Boomer Kuwanger again? Yeah, so a series staple of Mega Man games is refighting all the original 8 bosses again in the final levels of the game. Though usually you do it all in one room in a gauntlet of sorts. Here, it makes a direct reference to Mega Man 1, where you run into the bosses sporadically through the entirety of the endgame, rather than fight them all at once. And I would bet they use Boomer Kuwanger here to further reference Cutman. Those cheeky bastards. Anyway, this is the point in the game where I have zero time to fuck around, so I make sure to use all the Maverick's weaknesses so that they find out. Using certain weapons can also make some pretty funny stuff happen, like nudifying Armadillo here with the electric spark, or cutting off Mammoth's trunk or the arms off Launch Octopus with the boomerang cutter. X really using that infinite potential of his to master his bullying techniques. Sheesh! Sigma's Fortress also has a handful of unique bosses like this boss spider, who always follows the path laid before it, meaning you need to very quickly work out in your head where it will land to avoid taking damage and be ready to hit its weak spot. Really interesting concept and a fun fight for sure. Mario Party skills will definitely come in handy here. Rangabanga is the classic boss is a giant face in the background type, with each colored eyeball doing something different, with the worst one being the center, bringing the walls in and forcing you to avoid it over a pit of insta-death spikes. If you ever kill this ball first, by the way, the walls stay like this while you fight the others. Don't do that. The D-Rex here is kind of stupid, but it has some fun attacks like slamming your ass into the walls or trying to eat you. Meh. Now, it's time. Time to go against Sigma. You start in this tight vertical hall which spawns an infinite amount of these slug bots. You can throw on the powered up rolling shield and farm these guys for weapon energy and sub-tank juice. And if you ever happen to die against Sigma, at least they give you this to fall back on. Sigma starts off by sicking his dog on you, who has a pretty similar look to Treble from the original series. Man, I've referenced the original series a lot. Maybe I should have started with that. Whatever. Once his dog eats it, Sigma comes down and starts talking some shit. He whips off his cape, turns on his lightsaber, and gives you some kind of awkward thumbs up. He'll block most of your shots and barely takes any damage from your X-Buster. The best strategy I find is climbing the walls and pelting him with the electric spark as he bounces between them. Now the final form, Wolf Sigma. Oh man, this is imposing as hell. He's got a ton of attacks, but they're all telegraphed and can be dodged with good awareness. But if you do get hit, it's gonna hurt, even with the full armor upgrade. This is also the only boss in the entire game who takes more damage from the fully upgraded Buster Shot. But that's only because anything other than a fully charged shot does 0, where the full pink shot deals 1. Even the Hadouken deals nothing. Damn! Best to just use the rolling shield here, though it can be hard since you can only hit him in his tiny little head by riding his hands, which are also trying to kill you. Really, it's an amazing final boss fight and a great set piece to end things. Sigma curses X out for not letting him kill the humans, and X uses his still unexplained teleportation tech to watch Sigma's fortress go down in flames. X hates the fact that he has to fight, but he knows for sure that as long as he has to, he will. He has a real pacifist mindset, which is probably a good thing considering the type of robot he is, and this will come into play further down the line in the series, for better or for worse. This video ended up being a lot longer than I initially planned, but I'm so passionate about Mega Man X and all of its lore. X and Zero are two of my favorite video game characters of all time, and I so wish that we got something new in the Mega Man X series that wasn't just cameos or garbage mobile ports. I can blast through this game in like an hour, and I do so every few months because I just love it that much. Mega Man X was a huge jump for the series and a big part of my life, and this first game just nails it in every aspect. So of course it's as good as they say, because everyone agrees it's a masterpiece, right? Obviously, I'm putting Mega Man X at the very top of the S tier. Huge thanks as always go out to my supporters on Patreon, including all of those shown on screen, along with James Cummings, Connor Binder, Ryuzaki Law, Star Fox, Redmond, Pirikong, The Wise Vivi, and Luigi Rules. You guys are what unlock my full potential. If you want to support the show, you can head on over to patreon.com/TarvaldsQuest and check out the various tiers and rewards, including having your very own Sprite emote created by me, or choosing a song in the next video game trivia episode. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next quest.